Okay, I want to talk about plateauing again. And I'm going to talk about weight loss in this video, and then in another one I'll talk about plateauing with strength training. But they're both two different areas where you can plateau in, and I want to give some examples of why that might be happening and how you might be able to go about preventing that. Now, this might not be a perfect analogy, but I think it kind of explains the process, and I think that it will be something where it's easily understood and you'll see kind of what's going on. And what I want you to think about is this whole process, and this applies to some of the things that we were talking about when we had the train video and the different aspects of our metabolism. And I want to just talk about the weight loss portion and how everything applies to that, and why you might be adding exercise and cutting calories and not losing weight. So we talked about the energy systems and everything with the train, and how you want to stay at a balance. And that's the goal. And I thought about using the train video, but I think the one with the field kind of explains it a little better. So I went a little more in depth there. And what I have is, we'll say this is a field of corn, a field of wheat, and a field of beans for muscle, or however, whatever you want to call it. And we're just going to have this set up to where our workers are planting more corn or more crops in general, and then we have other workers who are picking those crops. I think that's a pretty good analogy. Now, the goal of this whole organization is to stay in business. So if you're looking at this as your body, your goal is to stay alive and keep functioning. So no matter what happens, everyone wants to stay in business. Everyone wants to keep the process going. So in order to do that, they have to keep the resources, and they never want to run out. Now, falling back on some resources is fine, but they don't want to run out. Ideally, though, they want to be at a balance. They want to have the same amount of workers planting as they do taking out. So for every person that is planting food, they want to keep the same amount of people who are picking food. So if we're at 250 pounds and our BMR is 2,500 calories, then we want to stay there. So whatever body fat we have, whatever muscle, whatever carbs we have stored in our body, we want to stay at that even kill for the day. And we want to make sure that we are constantly at the caloric balance. Now, what happens when people want to start losing weight is they're probably already over their BMR. They're probably already eating at least 100 calories over, and that's how they've gained weight. If you eat 100 calories over for a year, you'll gain 10 pounds. So if you've gained 10 pounds in the last year, you're probably already overeating. So just adjusting to your BMR is going to be taking off some of our workers here, because this is the food we're putting in. So even just going at our BMR, we're going to be cutting back our workforce here. But what people normally do is they'll find their BMR and they'll want to cut calories from that. So let's say with our 2,500 example here, that we cut it down to 22. So we're at 2,200 because we want to cut some calories, and we want to try to make sure that we're losing weight. Well, if we were already eating 26 or 27, we've cut more than 3 unknowingly, because we're not taking that into consideration. People fail to do that, and when they do that, that actually means they're taking off more workers than what they thought. So they thought they're taking a 300 calorie deficit, which could actually be a 4 or a 5, which means maybe we're already down a worker here. So these guys, they're fine with that, but everyone wants to try to be at a balance. So for a while, they'll work at the same pace, and they'll actually start chipping away at some of this body fat. Or it'll be carbs first. It's all dependent on your energy systems, what types of exercise you're doing. But I don't want to get into all the energy system stuff. I just want you to think about, you'll start to lose a little because of that minor deficit. But these guys want to be in a balance with them. So eventually, they're going to notice that they don't have this guy over here. And they're going to work less hard. They're going to do less. They might go ahead and knock out that one bit of crops, but once they see that there's only 4 guys over here, they're just going to slack. And they're going to take it easy because they want to be in a balance. They don't want to do any more work than these guys, no matter how many people they have. Now, the next thing people do in conjunction with this, which is why they start to run into problems, is they start adding in activity or exercise. So what they have over here is they'll start adding more guys. Now we already know these guys are wanting to balance out. So they're wanting to slack. Now we're adding more guys over here, and you would think that that's going to help. You know, we've added a couple guys, they're going to get rid of more resources. And they will, initially. But what happens is, now we got 7 guys over here. Now our 4, maybe 500 calorie deficit, because, you know, we were overeating to begin with. Let's say our activity ends up being 300 calories to 500 calories a day. Then this deficit now from our 500 is actually, it's going to be down to 1900 or all the way up to 1700 calories a day that we've cut down to. So from our 25, we're down to 17 now, and we actually have an 800 calorie deficit. So we're down 800 calories because we added in activity and we added in and we cut back food. So what's actually happened is we got these guys outnumbered so much that, you know, rather than keep chipping away here, our guys see they're not working. You know, they don't have that many people. So they start doing less. Now, you don't want that to happen. That's what happens when your metabolism slows down, and that's why you start plateauing and not seeing progress. Now, this is also what happens if they don't slow down fast enough and they start running out of carbs. That's when, you know, at certain times you'll start losing muscle mass because these guys have to have resources. However, because they want to be at a balance, eventually they will see that these guys aren't doing as much work as they are, and they'll start slacking. Even though you're still doing the activity, it tries to balance out. So they'll just not work as hard. If you keep adding activity, once again, a little bit will come out, but it's going to keep adjusting in order to stay at a balance. So even though you're doing more and more and more activity, you're getting less and less and less results. And the same if you keep cutting food, if you keep cutting guys over here, you're not going to lose more resources. Your guys are just going to work less hard. They're not going to get as much done. So you have to adjust at such a small amount that your guys still stay at a high pace so that your metabolism is still stoked and still trying to stay at a high rate so that you keep burning through the resources. And you have to have that balance. And that's why you can't use an analogy, you can't chase 2 rabbits, you'll lose them both. If you are trying to do both, if you're trying to cut calories and add in exercise, then it's going to make it to where you have a bigger deficit than maybe what you realize. So most programs will have you stay near your BMR and add exercise because most people aren't exercising. Now, if you're already exercising and you're trying to cut calories and you're eating around your BMR, then that's where you would adjust your diet. But it's a very complicated process. It's something that, you know, once you start plateauing, that would be a great time to get a coach involved because you need to look at all the different factors that play into this. It's not something that's real easy where you can just look at, well, okay, I just need to exercise more. That's not always the case. A lot of times it has to do with how well you're tracking everything, which is why in the last video we talked about plateauing and how you got to make sure that you're tracking. But there's also a lot of factors that go into, you know, what you're eating, what times you're eating, the activity levels that you have, and, you know, how you can manipulate that in order to make sure you're not plateauing. But this is something that people run into a lot is, you know, they keep just wanting to up the exercise or keep restricting the calories. And that causes a lot more problems than you realize. you have to watch that balance. But this is the reason that a lot of people plateau, is they're cutting their calories so low that no matter what activity they're doing, it's not having the impact, because they're not, the metabolism isn't working as hard. It knows that there's only so much resources left, and our body always tries to maintain the resources and stay at that balance. So it just slows the systems down, which is kind of what we were talking about with the train video. So, hopefully this goes a little more in depth with the plateau. Like I said, trying to use another analogy. There's lots of different things we can do. Hopefully I can come up with some other ideas, maybe give you some more information. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and like I said, I'll talk about plateauing with muscle and strength gains in the future, and hopefully you'll get some good information there also.